with people coming back to the office, do people need to make it more enticing? Do businesses need to make it more enticing, or do you think there's a natural sort of groundswell of optimism where people want to come in?
You know, we are seeing a growing focus, to Ben's point, on how can you be efficient and effective in onboarding staff and securing that growth opportunity. There is no doubt, as he rightly says, that over the last 18 months, we've been able to onboard people. We've been forced to onboard people in a digital and remote world, but it's far from ideal and it's far from efficient. In fact, Harvard Business Review has recently done a piece of research which suggests it's 6 times less efficient in managing people remotely than it would be in a real physical environment. So I think business leaders are going somewhat frustrated with that inefficiency or potential inefficiency. They're navigating around it, of course, because they've had a little choice. But I think what we're going to see in 2022, with my optimistic hat on, is a real focus on bringing people back to drive that action and culture. But with that comes a quid pro quo, and that is that we have to think about real estate beyond just the presentation of a physical environment, and to Reen's point, actually start to create emotional, psychologically effective environments that actually support the types of behaviours that we want from office occupants. It's a really complex position. It's a really subtle position, and I think it's a position that will have great variability across the occupier spectrum. One of my great frustrations in talking about occupiers for the last 20 years is when you talk to the supply side of the industry, basically every occupier is the same. It's a generic term that gets bandied about. I think what we're likely to see throughout the course of the next year and beyond is a growing recognition that not all occupiers are the same. In fact, they're all very, very different, and they're all going to want very, very different things from their real estate and the way that they optimize the real estate. But the central part of that difference will be much less about the building that they occupy and the footprint, and much more about the experience they write within it. Because I think the task, if you think about my labour market challenge in particular, one of the tasks that all organisations now have to have is they need to be thinking about how do we make the office a more compelling proposition to people who have greater choices to where they work than ever before. It's what a colleague of mine, Neil McLaughlin, talks about as the reason to invest in the commute. You have to give people a reason, a benefit to going and making that commute and going into the office. And I think more and more organisations are waking up to that